Hello, and welcome back to the Triangle Business Podcast. I am one of your co-stars, Joey Natale, followed by
I'm Scott Moore.
hey y'all. So today's episode, we're going to talk about, do you need more employees or better systems? It's kind of the fun title we came up with so far. And we were kind of debating back and forth of doing an episode of like hiring. And we wanted to give an angle and perspective about kind of where the employee might sit versus kind of maybe the owner. And we might weave back and forth from small business to large business. In this episode, we're gonna see where it goes. So, I want to start off with a question that comes to mind from here, which is more on the employee side, is like, why do employees often feel understaffed? And I can speak on that if you want to think about that,
Yeah,
Scott.
yeah. I
Sure.
mean, um, I think my first starting point on that is every place I ever work, and I'm having to remember into the distant past, right? Because I've been self-employed
Yeah.
for 25 years. Um, it always felt like we either had too many or too few employees. It was
Yes.
almost never like, it's the perfect amount right now.
Yes. Yes.
Um, so so yeah, I think that's my first response is that
Yeah.
it very rarely feels right sized.
I would agree. My experience in corporate, I used to work at Lenovo, large company, and I was doing IT work, and it was a new department, a brand new department, about maybe a year and a half started before I got there. And I just remember the common complaint of like, we need more staff constantly because we couldn't keep up with the work demand. And they couldn't, it was impossible. And it was impossible because the metrics that they graded us by, it was a call center. So people call in, you're supposed to pick up at a certain amount of time. In the beginning, there was no time limit for how long you were on the call, just like help them, which made it
Mm,
different.
gotcha.
Because they had like base support and then there was like us, essentially. That was what you paid extra for, essentially. And so that changed. I think I'm not there anymore, so I don't know, but I remember that being a more metric. And so the metric, at least in the beginning when I was there and paying more attention to it, um, we couldn't hit it on a regular basis. It was unrealistic for what the executives or senior managers number wise wanted. And um, yeah, that was ridiculous. And so yeah, that's usually the main complaint. My experience, that was what's happening.
I'm going to make a bold statement and I'm open to being wrong about it.
Sure.
But based on what you just said, and some conversations I've been having with clients and their employees lately, I believe it is impossible to know if your business model works while your current set of employees is not working at a sustainable level.
Hmm. I would agree with that.
Because if everybody's busting their butt to try to do the amount of work that you currently have,
Mhm.
and like they're showing up or even like straight up saying, I I don't know how much longer I can work at this pace.
Right. Yeah.
Well, like if it, maybe you're making good money right now, but that can't continue because you're going to burn everybody out or cause them to quit, or they're going to come in and demand a raise if you're going to keep working them like this.
Mhm.
And consequently, the profits that you thought you were going to have are are not either it's not going to keep going like this, or you're going to have to suddenly eat into that to pay to hold on to people. And I mean, if your employees are smart, and let's assume most of the time they are, and they start realizing we're just constantly busting our butts around here, then they know they have you over a barrel, because if they quit, then you're going to be screwed. You're already overworking them. And so, like, from a strictly utilitarian standpoint, it is completely reasonable for them to use that leverage and ask for more money. And
Yes.
so, with that in mind, like, if smoke is coming off of the machine, that's a bad time to think, oh, this is, then this is what the average will be going forward.
Yes.
So,
That's true.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, I see that I mean, it is especially true for small systems like the kind of businesses that I primarily work with.
Yes.
If you've only got 4 or 5 people on the team, having the exact right amount of work for that many people to do right now is really, really, it's a hard thing to calibrate. It's very swingy.
Yes. I I agree with that. And what comes to mind about my experience being in a larger company, like a Fortune 500 company, is that like that definitely felt true. Like they were, at least for a couple of years, it felt like they were just too much work, or the work kept growing every month, every quarter,
Hmm.
and we couldn't keep up. And so, like, I mean, some people left, obviously, but like it feels like you have to get an entire department to get on board with you to get a raise. And some people play the game of like, well, I'm going to be the office snitch. And they were, and they got rewarded for it. I don't know what they got rewarded for, but I know they did. And so that's a whole thing. And powerlessness, hopelessness comes to mind. Maybe that was just my past experience of being in that company, but just like you feel this type of leverage that you describe would only work if the whole village, if you will, department, if you will, gets on board. And it just didn't happen. It just wouldn't. So like I remember talking to a lot of employees being like, what do you wish? Like, what do you want to do? Like, oh man, I just want to make more money. Okay, well, what would you do that? Like, I don't know, man. Just trying to work here. And there's maybe it was just the department, maybe it was the type of job I was in, but there was a lot of like people not doing dreams. And I don't want to get off too much of a rant here, but like mission and vision just wasn't aligned. And I don't think a lot of people at that particular role I was in like had their own mission and vision. I mean, this is a large age gap of people here, like
Yeah,
early 20s, like myself when I started, to like 50s, 60s, 70s, and this dude who was in retirement. He's gonna retire from the company because there was a lot of people that moved from IBM to
to Lenovo. Yeah.
Lenovo. So you know a lot of IBMers and stuff. And so a vast range of people, experiences, and worked many, many different jobs within Lenovo and IBM. Um, but I agree with that. And so I think that's where the increase of burnout and hopelessness, and low level of job satisfaction is faster and increases because like the machine is always smoking in
Ugh.
certain departments of larger companies. And like you sign up for that. And if
Well, I
you,
mean, if you're being hired into that environment, it's probably a good experience, at least momentarily, because they know they need you. And when you're job seeking, that's the whole point of the gig, right? Is to be
yes,
like, they need me. They're offering me a job.
yes,
They're willing to pay me. And I mean, you don't want to immediately be thrown into the crucible of, well, there's way, way, way more work that you can possibly get done, but expectations on you are really high.
yes,
Because, especially in the early days, people want to try to make a good impression and all that. But
absolutely. Yeah.
um, I will tell you, like, I can't help but this is looming so large in my head. And I am going to be annoyingly vague about it because I don't really have permission to tell this is somebody else's story.
Okay.
Um, I'm going to say it like this. Somebody I was very, very close to. was in an environment working in a healthcare system where they were there was too much work and there was a lot of pressure for them to get it all done. And as that pressure began to build, they had people getting fed up with the way it was being managed and quitting.
Hmm.
And then the remaining people were told, well, that's a bummer that they've left because it just means there's even more work now for the rest of you to do. And this got worse and worse until higher level management for the department. And this was a big company. If I said the name, everybody who's familiar with our region would know exactly what I'm talking about. But
Right.
they called a big meeting to address it, the how low morale was.
Yeah.
And they literally they had somebody up on stage who had been at the company for like 30 years.
Yeah.
And I'm going to pretend her name is Janet for purposes of this conversation. And they're
Yeah.
like, what we wanted to do is like use Janet as our example for how you should be handling this right now. Because Janet has been here for 30 years and we've never heard her complain. And we want you to really dig deep and be like Janet and not complain about the way it is. It's just going to be like this for a while. And everybody was like, this is the biggest heap of bullshit I've ever been served up here.
Yeah.
And, and I've been served up plenty. But you telling us that our concerns are heard and your answer is just stop complaining about it.
Yep.
And they had like four people quit that day. Um, so I mean, from a career coaching standpoint, I'll just be like, hey, if you see other rats leaving the ship,
Yeah.
like that's probably always going to be happening,
Yes.
but maybe look around and make sure you're not the last rat because that's going to suck.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Um, that's very true.
Yeah.
There's
I mean,
people.
I guess maybe to like change direction on this a little bit and start and speak towards um the small business management aspect. One of the big problems you run into is right about the time that smoke is starting to come off the machine, the owner of the company, um, in my experience, two things happen.
Mm,
Number one, they're um, getting into the production part of the business
yes.
more because they have to, even if they had previously delegated most of that away. Like in most cases for small businesses, the owner is heavily involved in the production aspect of the business when it first starts. And then as time goes on and the business grows, they will necessarily need to move into more of like a trainer and a manager for the new production people that come in, and
Mhm.
then move into marketing and sales to make sure that enough work comes in for the production team to get it done.
Mhm.
And then when the machine starts smoking and they start going, I know how to do the production part. I'll get back in there and do some of that. Um, it means they have never had less time than now to engage in a hiring process. And a hiring process almost certainly leverages a bunch of their time. And the other thing that happens is they're necessarily being less engaged in their marketing and sales.
Mhm.
So more than once I've seen them be like, I had to jump in and help out on this. Whether I like it or not, I have to hire somebody else. And then they hire that person. And as soon as they come in, is about the time that the lag in their marketing and sales is catching up with them. And now there's less work to do. And they're immediately like, oh, you know, I made a bad decision hiring somebody right now because it feels like there's not enough work for this team to do.
Yes.
Um, and so I have a lot of sympathy for that being a problem and figuring out good metrics for when we hire the next person
Yes.
at a moment that we're not scraping the absolute bottom of the barrel of our time is um, difficult and important to
Would you say
navigate.
that's why most business owners resist hiring?
I mean, if they've done that dance before and they're like, right after I hired somebody, the, you know, incoming sales took a downturn, and I ended up either struggling to pay them or having to pay myself less
Hmm.
or having to work extra hard to go out there and hustle up the business. And they're like, we there's this phrase like always fighting the last war, where people are like kind of going, well, what happened last time was this, so I
Hmm.
better make sure that doesn't happen again. And I'm like,
Right.
well, in some ways that's probably a good idea, but also things are different now than they were back then.
Right. That's
Um,
true.
so I think that's a reason why people are resistant to hiring. A lot of times, I know this is silly, but sometimes it's just kind of math where they're just thinking about the salary. Like, well, if I need to pay somebody $80,000 to do this job,
Hmm.
and I look at my bank account and I've got $60,000 in the operations account, I'm like, 80 is bigger than 60. I don't know how I'm going to be able to afford them. And I'm like, well, remember, you don't have to pay them their whole annual salary the day they come to work for you,
Right.
right? Like it's going to be, you know, this much per month.
Right.
And you're also thinking that production that they bring to the table
Yes.
is, I mean, it's going to take a minute to come online. Like nobody is ever fully productive the day they come to work there. But like after 2 to 3 months, you should be realizing a substantial profit. And so that a year from now, the operations account is at $100,000 or $120,000 or something like that because we have that person doing the production they're doing. Um,
Makes sense.
yeah, but like numbers are weird in people's heads, right? Like
Yeah,
they're just
they
like,
are.
you know, I mean, I hate to be trite about it, but you got to spend money to make money.
Yes.
Cash, this is another reason why cash reserve is one of the best things you can cultivate as a business owner is like having enough money to go, now I can afford to bring somebody on and pay them through that awkward early period when they're getting up to speed on our systems.
Mhm.
And then I'll start making a tidy profit from them and then we'll be good. Um, but if there's no extra money laying around, then that person's walking into a situation where they
Mhm.
got to be as close to fully productive as possible on day one, and that's a huge amount of pressure, and it may handicap your whole training process.
Yeah, it is. And which leads me to the next question we'll ask is how often is it we need more people actually is a systems problem?
Yeah, I mean, this overlaps another conversation we have all the time about like admin is the least sexy part of the business
Yes.
because it doesn't make you any money,
Yes.
and it easily is pushed down the priority list in ways that um, other things won't be because they can't be.
Yes. Yes.
And it's rare that I've seen it where like you can admin your way out of needing to hire at some point,
Yes.
but it is often the thing where investing some time makes the machine stop smoking.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, but unfortunately, right when the machine is smoking is when people are least prone to wanting to spend time on something that doesn't feel critical in the moment. Like it's like we don't have time to mess with our admin. We're too busy doing all the things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so anyway, I mean it's rough. Um, and it's also one of those things that getting through it, like the first couple of times,
Hmm.
is um, it's rough.
Hmm.
And once you've done it the first couple of times, it'll probably be a little easier on the third and the fourth and the fifth.
Hmm.
Um, but that's the nature of systems is that like going from a one person business to a two-person business is monumental, and going from a 15-person business to a 16-person business probably just feels like you know it's not trivial, but we've got this, we've done it before many times.
Yes.
um,
Very true. This
so
makes me think about when I was at Lenovo when we moved from I don't remember the ticketing system we used to use. It was a custom made one. It was very older. We'll just say it felt very older. It technically, according to my IT friends had the ability to be better than anything we did, but somebody built like a just bare bones, crappy version and didn't really do anything with it. Somebody switched to Microsoft Dynamics, which is just a Microsoft ticketing system, I guess. It was sexier, prettier, newer kind of thing. That took a long time, a very long time for me to get the hang of. And I think it did make things significantly more efficient in a way, but it's just very complicated in a lot of ways. And most people, I would say, I've been in the company in years, and I'd say I would argue that to this day, most people still don't know how to use the full capability of it,
Hmm.
which is a
Yeah.
thing. Which I mean, that's been my experience of what the difference. One of the other differences of a large company versus a small company is like they feel like they don't have time to really like invest in learning how to use maybe the admin tools or the tools to their fullest extent, which actually would be more system problem. Like, well, here's just this piece. Here's the bare bones. Figure it out, kind of thing.
Hmm.
And that's just, I think that's somebody who doesn't know really what the real problems are, that isn't working in the trenches, if you will. And I think that's why there's that tension of like when you, even if you get a new system or you improve the system, um, I was going to say versus staffing, but that really isn't the thing here. Just like kind of the mission and vision and the passion of the company and just like, why are we doing this just for a paycheck versus like, I really want to help people or sell a dream product to help the world or my town or just, I
Yeah.
don't know, my family, something like that. Like, I think it's kind of what we'll bump into sometimes.
When
And
you were, sorry, I didn't mean to
yeah,
interrupt you.
you're
Go
good. I wasn't really, I don't know, I wasn't sure where I was going with that, to be
ahead.
honest.
I'm curious to know, like, did you ever feel like you had a significant amount of influence or even visibility into the hiring process at
That's a good
Lenovo?
question.
Or your,
Um,
I mean, specifically for your department. I don't mean across the whole company.
yeah, so that's a good question, actually. I would say there was a little bit of time when I did.
Okay.
And at one point, my first year, I went above and beyond and did all the things. Sometimes came in early, definitely stayed late. Rarely would come in early. They asked me one time and said, "Can you come an hour early?" And I was like, "Sure." And nobody thanked me. I was like, "I'm never doing that again." There was no reason for me to come in. They just asked me to. And there wasn't anything to do. So, but regardless, um, I realized that there was a morale problem, a major one, and that really mattered to me. And I also realized, looking back now, I was like, wow, I was at the wrong company in the wrong department doing the wrong job.
Hmm.
And I was.
Yep.
And so that was important to me. So I looked at before AI was more commonly used today. I figured out like activities to do. And I'm going to get to answer your question in a minute, but I created ideas to like, there was this competition that we did. We make sticky note art. And they gave me some money to go out to Staple. Actually, no, I used my own money. They didn't even reimburse me, which is annoying. You owe me $40, Lenovo. But
I'm sure they'll get right on that.
I'm sure they will. It's,
Lenovo, if you're listening, Joey will submit an invoice.
and it was just like paper and pencils and just like sticky notes, things like that. And like it was a competition of like who did the best this. I did some raffles and like it was pretty cool because some of the people like created like an Iron Man face out of sticky notes.
Oh, all right.
And one of them was a Zelda, like a 8-bit Link um, emoji thing. And that shit stayed up on the wall on the mirror. It was a glass, the window for a year. So much
All right.
so that it was green because, Link he wears a green tunic, but
Uh-huh,
it
sure.
faded into blue over time. So it's like, oh, look, it's the Breath of the Wild one because his tunic
That's
is blue in that one. I was just like, that's
nice.
hilarious. So that was the joke. But like, we gave away some things like it went so well that ended up throwing a pitch to, she wasn't the director, but I think she was the executive, three levels above my manager, manager, senior manager, department head, I don't know, and then somebody who was important. I would say executive or probably director, I think. Um, and I pitched a meeting to them about that whole thing, how we can influence, yeah, the department more. And the question they asked me was just like, well, how do we get them to drink the Kool-Aid? I'm like, what I just talked about. And so really what I wish I had known back then, I didn't that I know now, it's just like, well, none of you are drinking the Kool-Aid except above a certain level. So to answer your question, did I feel like I had some influence? Yes, I did at that time, only because like I was on people's radar. And they asked me my opinions because I went out of my way and did individual surveys in person and asked like 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 25 people, like, what would you think is better? What do you wish could happen? What kind of rewards would you want? What kind of raffles things would you want? What kind of games do you want? What kind of food do you want? Like what do you think the department could do better? And I created surveys and I sent them out to people. And like that was valuable data. And so like, did I get consulted on about things? I got asked a couple questions, not by my direct manager. He had no interest whatsoever at all and did not care. Unfortunately, he was the one that was in charge of hiring.
Yeah.
Um, and
Well, it sounds to
or
me like you just like took initiative because you saw a problem,
I did.
which I think speaks really well of you. It's one of the things I like about you.
Yeah,
And and as soon as it basically didn't get any support or it was treated like
well, it did.
performative
Cut a
by
fund
the
budget.
management, it was like you lost you well, I think you probably lost the drive to do it
I did.
because they treat it like bullshit.
I did. In fact, I got a budget for $1,000. So I scored, which I guess that's pretty cool, I guess, in corporate. I think it's cool. And then what happened is I learned a very valuable corporate lesson, which is what is it? The 48 laws of power talk about like don't outshine the master, which in this case, I'm gonna transpose it to like don't make your manager look bad, which I
Yeah,
didn't know I was making him look bad because he doesn't do these kind of things. And so he was control the budget. And then he made my team lead yell at me and say like you're not allowed to work on these projects during work, even though the three levels above manager said like we want you to do this.
got it.
And so
Yeah,
then I had to get approval, and so all my ideas just kept getting shut down.
got it.
And like that is when I quiet quit after the
Yeah.
first year. And I stayed there for 3.5 more years and became the worst employee. But regardless, like I did have some influence, and people asked me like, "What do you think about this? You have a pulse on the team." And um, uh, I know I had influence because the idea that I came up with, which was a point system for like if you hit your metrics, you get a point and you get like potentially like, I don't know, PlayStation 5 or something. Well, 3 years later, they implemented it. And so the manager said that he created it. And I'm just like, I those aren't my slides, but that is my graph. And so like, which is annoying, but it'll be forever internalized on this podcast. So haha. And so anyway, so like that was some influence, did have some real change, lasting change in the company department. Um, he asked me like, who do you think we need more of? I remember asking the department person directly, I'm like, why did you hire these guys? Who are the senior managers who have no people skills? Like, why didn't hire them for that? Hired them because that's all they've done their entire career, which is work in a call center for 45 years and didn't go up out anywhere else. And so I'm like, wow, cool. They know the ins and outs and the backs of it, except everything about the human element, which is what keeps employees there. So I'm bringing this back to our topic because, like, they were very good at creating systems that had nothing to do with humans in mind.
Got it.
And
That makes
so
sense.
I think that's actually really important, which is on our topic of like why people feel like we need more hiring. You can create a great system, but if it doesn't work effectively with humans, you're wasting your time.
Yeah. Well, and it can be really tricky to figure that out, right? Because like
Yeah.
I'm dealing with a situation with one of my clients right now where they're like, we could some people are saying we could really use more information tracking internally, but there's no time to mess with that because we're in the middle of absolutely mission critical other stuff, and nobody wants to have to be like the librarian and go track down all the little bits and bobs of information and come up with a Dewey Decimal System of having to track it all internally.
Right. Yeah.
But it is hurting the people because by virtue of not having the information tracking, it's actually turning out to be really hard right now to keep their finger on the pulse of the pace of
Yeah.
projects. And so I did want to say, like, for anybody, I think it's really important for us to look at like some of these cautionary tales, both in the corporate side of things and in small business. For anybody who's listening to this and being like, well, I mean, I get it. I sympathize with, Joey's problem, but that's the whole reason I got out of corporate, and now I'm having to deal with my own hiring issues. I did think it would be useful to maybe talk through like a little bit of process around that. Because I've been doing that for a long time with people, and this is sort of the template that I use for our hiring process. Um, Number one, figure out where you're going to locate your best candidates from. And I talk about all the time, like the best way to get a job is through networking. I I would feel like kind of a hypocrite if I didn't say the best way to get an employee is through networking.
Hmm.
Like if you can think of somebody that would do a good job at your company, reach out to them and be like, I I'd like to talk to you about whether it would be a good fit for you to come work here. And if
Hmm.
they're like, no, that's fine. But you could say, okay, cool. Do you know anybody who's looking for work that you think has similar characteristics to you in one of the ways that's important to us? And, because like people who like the things they like,
Yes.
and therefore they're likely to know people who are in some form or fashion the way they are. Like that's just how comfort zones work.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, and if that's not the best way to find a candidate, that's fine with me. Like who you already know is one way. Who you go out and meet in the short run is another way. So those are both kind of networking solutions to it. If somebody comes recommended by somebody, a trusted referral partner in your network, that's a good hiring opportunity, probably. I
Hmm.
mean, it's the best odds we can create for ourselves.
Yes.
Um, and then of course there's always put a job listing out there somewhere on one of the various platforms.
Mm.
Indeed, was the thing for a while, and back in the olden days it was like monster.com or whatever. But
Indeed is partnering with Glassdoor. So if you create an account for Glassdoor, you have one with Indeed. So they are
Okay.
together now, by the way.
Yeah. But that's like step zero. I mean, before that, you also need to have a really good job description and some notion of what you'll pay people to get them to want to do this job. But then you get deluged with resumes. And I encourage people frequently, like, only like leave the tap on until you have, I'm going to say, at most 30 resumes. I could get talked into 50. I don't think I could get talked into anything bigger than 50. And then make a first pass on the resumes as the business owner and sort of sort them into the absolutely nots. And then these are the ones I really, really like. And like, how many of those are there? Um, and if there's two of them, I'd like look through your maybes again and be like, find three or four more that are like at least good enough to find more information about.
Hmm.
And then you set up screening calls. And screening calls are meant to do two things. Number one, you need to have one or two or three key questions, like, do they absolutely have experience using this program that everybody at our company has to use? Hopefully that was listed in the job description, but asking them about their experience of doing it and their level of expertise is really important if that's a key thing. Like sometimes it's geography, like,
Hmm.
wh- you know, like, are you going to be able to be at our work location on time on a regular basis? if the traffic or the commute is too big of a pain in the butt,
Hmm.
or like if it's a remote position, that's good, but it may still, like are they licensed in the state of North Carolina
Yep.
where we are, like wherever you are, right? Um, but you have like your key screening questions. Another thing you figure out is do they show up for the screening call?
Mm.
Like, are they on time?
Yes.
Do do they send you a thing at the last minute? I'm not going to be able to make it. Can we reschedule? Like, how good are they at managing their time? I understand that like things happen and sometimes somebody will have a bad day and need to be rescheduled. I had somebody call me one time and said, my wife was in a car accident. I'm not going to be able to be on that call. And I was like, I hope your wife is okay. I will reschedule with you. Might that have been an excuse? Yeah, but I just chose to believe them. And then he promptly rescheduled. We end up hiring that guy,
Yeah.
right? Like his follow through was really strong.
Right.
Um, so, but having like a 10 to 15-minute screening call
Hmm.
is a good intermediary step, in my opinion.
Hmm. Two
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah.
So, two questions I'll ask to close down this episode. One, what's one hiring mistake you see repeatedly in small business? You may have already said it.
No, actually the one that I see most often is um not having com so much emphasis is put on can we get somebody because we need somebody.
Yeah.
But coming up with clear metrics for and telling them like when during the interview process, not when they come on board, but during the interview process, like when you come to work here in the first 30 days, we want to make sure that you're capable of doing these things. After 60 days, we want to make sure you're capable of doing these things. And after 90 days, we want to make sure you're capable of doing these things. And we're going to support you in having all that happen. But also, if some of those metrics aren't met, we may discover that like, it really isn't a fit for you to work here. And being willing to follow through on that and like hold yourself to the training standard that would support someone in getting there and holding them accountable for getting there.
Mhm.
Um, honestly, like this is a little bit beside the point, but like not being willing to let go of an employee who's not a good employee is one of the big mistakes I see small business owners make.
Mm.
So
Interesting.
like it's hard to do that. Well, I mean, first of all, it's just hard to do that. And second of all, it's really hard to do it if you didn't come up with any kind of standards for them to adhere to, because then it just feels like you're choosing to fire somebody on vibes, and that
Yes.
doesn't feel good.
No, no, it doesn't. And last question I'll ask to close out this episode today is if an employee comes to you tomorrow and says, we're overloaded and need another person, what question should a good leader ask before posting the job? Questions, not just one, maybe a couple.
I would say the thing to go back to the employee with is, are there any resources that we could provide you that aren't human resources that would make your job better, easier, faster?
Mhm.
Um, and then listen to that. And not because we want to avoid hiring somebody,
Yeah.
but that goes back to your thing earlier. Like, do we need another person or do we need better systems? And like maybe we don't need better systems. Maybe we need like one more truck,
Yeah.
right? And like trucks aren't cheap, but they're probably cheaper than hiring a person.
Yes. That's very true.
We need one more workstation. We need better quality materials. We need additional continuing education.
Mhm.
Those are all things that you could invest in to make your current team better. Because hiring somebody is already always speculative.
Yes.
I mean, we're smart people, we'll make good choices, but we're always rolling the dice. And
Yes.
so, yeah.
Question that comes up to me is like, well, first of all, I was thinking about my experience at Lenovo, and it makes me think of that meme where it's like somebody's drowning in water. Like, help. the manager's hand comes in like pizza party. High five.
Right.
Yeah. Just like, which is
Yep.
great. And they had a lot of those things, but it was always like a band-aid. And I'm like, what a good question in that environment. One, the question you ask would be phenomenal if they asked that. Just like, I think a question that would come to mind is like, how can I be better as a leader to support you? And that
Sure.
was a question that was never asked
Yeah.
at all. And so, like, because the
Well, they're
message,
certainly not going to be vulnerable enough to ask it in front of you.
no. And so, like, I mean, it's gonna be like that on the nose, but like in that field direction. Because, like, I remember the the two guys that hired me, and one of them, they're friends for like God knows since they were my age when they worked together for 35 years. One of them actually literally worked himself to death. Like he actually died. He was so stressed.
Yikes.
Yeah, and it's terrible. But I remember hearing them say like, "Hey, did you do that self-development leadership training we're required to do as managers?" And they were like, "No, I'm putting it off till literally I have to
Right.
the day of." And I'm like, "Ooh, yikes!" And to me, we're big into self-development, things like that. I'm like, "Oh, that crushes my soul a little bit." And so there were times when the work was over, it was too much work, so the managers jumped in, which thankfully they did, but they did in a way they weaponized it. They're like, well, I worked 12 hours yesterday and I got X amount of cases done more than you. And it was a competition of how much can you workaholic each
Oh,
other
yeah.
out,
Yeah.
which was not great. So, like, that's why I asked that question. It's just like, how could I be a better leader? How could I show up as a better manager to you? Um, I could do or do less of. So I'll
Well,
wrap it up with there.
well, we're on time here. We're at time here, but I feel like I have to say one more thing,
Sure.
and it's this. Another good answer to that question is to say, um, do you know anybody that you think should work here that you want me to interview?
Mm,
And the reason why that would be a really important question is like, if they don't like working there, then they're probably not going to recommend to their friend or family member that they come to work there. And you might be able, if you're a good reader of people, you might be able to figure that out right there. But if they do have somebody that, again, they've been working the job, like they know what kind of characteristics somebody needs to do well at the job.
yeah.
So asking your employees who should we hire right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it offers them some agency and who are they going to be working alongside, and it
Yep.
also, gives them a chance to be heard. So,
Mm.
um,
All good questions.
I think
Good.
that's another good response to that one.
I
So,
I agree.
yeah, this has been
And
cool. I've enjoyed talking about this.
yeah, me
Comes up
too.
all the time. If your
Yeah,
business is going to grow, then you're going to have to get some more people.
that's true. And thank you all listeners for listening. And if you like what you're hearing, give us a comment, follow, subscribe, whatever. Hit those buttons you see around it. We appreciate you listening. And then tune in next time, y'all. Bye.
See you soon. Bye.